the theory, so what Sridhar is saying in the previous paragraph, okay, we are discussing the theory of illusion and whether it is real or not real. The theory of illusion is when you go to the second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, the world seems to be unreal, only shadow forms without substance. So now Sridhar is saying the theory of illusion cuts the knot of the problem but does not disentangle it. It is an escape, not a solution. Because when you see the unreality, you go away. You go away from it. Why should I bother about something which is not real? That's the ascetic solution. Individual solution, but not a solution for the humanity, nor for the problem of the imperfections and all the limitations in the physical world. Sridhar wants that also to go away here. So it is an escape and not a solution when you cut the knot. But you want to disentangle the knot and keep the connection between the higher and the lower. In metaphysics, as in science, the best solution is that which accounts for the maximum number of data to be considered without leaving out any as unexplainable. The theory of illusion leaves out of contention the entire cosmos. This is hardly acceptable. When you say that the physical world doesn't exist, then you are not taking that into account at all. You have to take that into account. So the theory of illusionism does not take into account all the data available. To understand Sri Aurobindo's integral view, we have to remember that all the data available, just one second. Okay. All the data available have to figure, just one second. Yeah. All the data available, we have to remember all the data that has been, we have to consider all the data. So, just one second. Yeah. So, in this view, it is his view, Sri Aurobido's view, that the cosmos has been created by the supreme reality and therefore it must have some purpose, some aim and significance. Nobody creates something without any purpose. Okay? Suddenly you create, when you go somewhere, you are going with a specific purpose. So it cannot be illusion or even if real, a field of permanent imperfections. It cannot be that. It cannot be a field of permanent imperfections, perversions and sufferings. Yes, we do admit that there is temporary imperfections, temporary perversions and temporary sufferings. But don't forget the evolution. That's what Sridhar is saying. Mayavada does offer a solution for the escape from suffering, but does away with the world without explaining its reason for existence. Okay? It releases man from the evil and sufferings of the transient world into the eternal knowledge. It does do that. Okay? But it's an individual solution. It releases man from the evil and sufferings of the transient world into the eternal knowledge, bliss and immortality. But the world cannot be dismissed as an illusion, or even if as a field of permanent evil, suffering and perversion. It is a divine creation with evolution as its process. It is evolving from the inconscious to the superconscious. And we are at present in the middle stage. It's an unfinished journey. That is what Sridhar is saying. Okay? So, this is what he said in the previous paragraph. So now from there, we continue with what we have to do today. But this debate, okay, I go sentence by sentence because I have already read it once. But this debate belongs to the domain. One second. But this debate belongs to the domain of the pure reason And the final test of truths of this order is not reason, but spiritual illumination, verified by abiding fact of spirit. A single decisive spiritual experience may undo a whole edifice of reasonings and conclusions erected by the logical intelligence. So, if in we have discussed this many times, each field has got its own laws and its own forms and customs and habits, each field. So just like in different countries, different laws apply. So if you start applying different laws in different countries, you are going to be in trouble. Okay, it's very obvious. So you have to use the right instruments and use the right laws. Reason is wonderful instrument, wonderful, no doubt, but in the level 1. But when you go to level 2 in the spiritual planes of consciousness, it is not valid anymore. You have to go beyond reason. So that's what he's saying. So one single decisive spiritual experience will completely destroy your reasonings entirely, because that is 10 times more convincing than your reasoning and logic. One single decisive spiritual experience may undo a whole edifice of reasonings and conclusions erected by the logical intelligence. Here, the theory of illusionism is an occupation of a very solid ground. Okay? It is true that the theory of illusionism has got a very sound basis. And what is that basis? A spiritual experience. I am experiencing that the physical world is unreal, so I can't reject it. I have to explain it. I can't reject it. I have to explain why it is like that. For though it is in itself no more than a mental formulation, the experience it formulates into a philosophy accompanies a most powerful and apparently final spiritual realization. So what Swami is saying is that when you have the spiritual experience, if you want to explain it, you have to put it into words, which is mental formulation. So when you put into mental formulations, reason is inferior to spiritual experience, and therefore you are unable to explain it fully. So your explanation may be challenged. That's exactly what he's saying. Okay, it is itself no more than a mental formulation. It is a formulation that's a problem, not the spiritual experience. The experience it formulates into a philosophy accompanies a most powerful and apparently final spiritual realization. It is so convincing that you feel it is final. But Surendra is adding the word apparently final. Okay? Actually, it is not. But at that time, 90%, 95%, you feel that this is the ultimate reality. It is so convincing from what you were experiencing earlier. It comes upon us with a great force of awakening to reality when the thought is stilled, when the mind withdraws from its constructions. Note the word constructions. All our thoughts are constructions. The mind constructs, and when we construct, then there is clarity. But when you don't construct, you are unable to construct something in the mind, then you don't understand. Okay? This is something very interesting, and we don't think of it that way, but I am repeating. Every time you are thinking of something in the mind, okay, let us say you are thinking of a mountain, then actually what happens is that the substance in the mind, you remember that there is a substance in the vital and there is also a substance in the mental, subtler and subtler. But that subtle substance forms a mind, then you are thinking of a mind. And sometimes you are unable to construct from your subtle substance a mountain, you will not be able to visualize it. I mentioned something in this context again, which will explain what I am saying now. When we were, mother was having December 1st, we were having a drama, and the drama was Perseus the Deliverer. And Jugalda, he was our teacher, he was selected to play Perseus the Deliverer. And mother said that his thinking is so clear. Okay, she can see the forms, well-formed thoughts coming out of his mind. Sometimes when your thoughts are unclear, the formation, the mental formulations are hazy, without clear form. Okay, so all your thinking is mental formulation. Okay, your mental substance is making formations. So now you are going beyond formations. You are going and you are experiencing the physical world as only images, and that's the truth. So when you are understanding the physical world through mental formulations, you are not seeing the reality. You are only constructing something in the mind. You are starting from the data of the senses, and you are constructing something in the mind. It is not the object that you are seeing. You are seeing the object in your mind. Your mind is making, and what is it making from? The details, the data that is coming through the senses. All these senses are giving data to the brain, and the brain is constructing an image out of that data. So this is what Sridhar is saying here. So naturally, when you don't construct and you go to the reality, then it is much more. So this is what you experience when you have the experience of the nirvana, the unreality of the physical world. The mental formulation that you are making of the physical world are not really existing. They are only fleeting formulations. That's what Sadhguru is saying. Here the theory of illusionism is an occupation of very solid ground. Okay? You are going beyond mental formulation, and it's absolutely real to you, the nirvana experience. For although it is in itself no more than a mental formulation, the experience it formulates into a philosophy accompanies the most powerful and apparently final spiritual realization. It comes upon us with a great force of awakening to reality when the thought is stilled, when the mind withdraws from its constructions, when we pass into pure selfhood, void of all sense of individuality, the ego disappears. Sense of individuality, ego. Empty of all cosmic contents. It becomes absolutely featureless. Cosmic contents, features, characteristics, okay, which you can describe. But there, all these things vanish. They are all unreal. The waves are not there anymore, only the sea. Okay? This is the experience of nirvana. If the spiritualized mind then looks at individual and cosmos, they may well seem to be an illusion, a scheme, a formulation, a scheme of names and figures, nama rupa. That's what we use in the Indian philosophy. All the world, whatever you are seeing, is only nama and rupa. It is as unreal as your name. Okay? Your name is something that is not representative of you. Okay? Your name is Jasmine, but I could have used another name for you. Okay? And you will not change. So in the physical world, everything is only name, the most superficial thing. And also form, because the form also goes on changing. When you are a baby, you have one form. When you are an adolescent, you have another form. That form also goes on changing. It's not permanent at all. So everything that you see in the physical world is only name and form. This is the truth of the nirvana experience. Okay? So Srimba is saying it is solid and it is real. Okay? It's not unreal. You are seeing the reality from another angle. That's what he's saying. A scheme of names and forms, figures and movements falsely imposed on the sole reality of the self-existent. Now this also you can understand, we should think of it, movements. So names, figures and movements falsely imposed on the sole reality of the self-existent. This whole phrase, you can think of the cinema, it becomes very clear. The reality is a screen, and our screen is rectangular in the playground, and it's got a border and it is white. But even white is a feature, it's a characteristic. Now remove even that whiteness and remove the borders and make it infinite. Okay, that is the reality. That is the featureless Brahman, the featureless self. And all the projector is putting images on that. The world is going on putting images through your mind. It's your mind which is the projector and creating images. So when you Shut off the projector. When you make the mind silent and tells it, don't make images anymore, shut up, then you see only the white screen. That is the featureless Brahman, immutable featureless Brahman. Okay? That's why the image of the cinema is very, very useful, okay, to understand exactly what is meant by the Brahman consciousness. So they may well seem to be an illusion, a scheme of names and figures and movements falsely imposed on the sole reality of the self-existent. Self-existent. The world is not existing self-existent. It is existing through your mind. Your mind is creating, and the mind becomes silent, the existence disappears, the existence of those images. Or even the sense of self becomes inadequate because featurelessness. So even self, even to describe it as self is a feature. Both knowledge and ignorance disappear into sheer consciousness, and consciousness is plunged into a trance of pure superconscious existence. Or even existence ends by becoming too limiting a name for that which abides solely forever. So even to describe it as an existence is too much. It is absolutely indescribable. There is only a timeless eternal. Because timeless eternal. The world is also eternal, but it is in time. The world is a time eternity, and the Brahman is the timeless eternal. Okay? A spaceless infinite. The utterness of the absolute. A nameless peace. An overwhelming single objectless ecstasy. Our ecstasy, our pleasures, there is an object always to it. And it is the object that is creating the ecstasy, rather pleasure in us. But at that level, it is sheer bliss. No object at all, nothing to enjoy. It is just there is no thing to enjoy. The enjoyment alone remains. That's what Shakti said. Single objectless ecstasy. There can certainly be no doubt of its validity. Okay? That is absolutely true that the experience of nirvana is valid. Okay? Complete within itself. Now note the word within itself. It is complete, but within itself. Because if you go outside it, again you can experience something else. The words within itself very important. Complete within itself. Of this experience, there can be no denial of the overwhelming, decisive convincingness. Ekatma pratyaya saram. Ekatma, one single reality, the soul. Pratyaya, certainty, okay, absolute convincingness, pratyaya. Saram, essence. So, I have made this thing. Ekatma pratyaya saram. In English, you will say, one single Atman, conviction, absolute knowledge. You can translate in that way. Okay? With which this realization seizes the consciousness. Let me read this. Yeah. With which this realization seizes the consciousness of the spiritual seeker. Not the word seizes, okay? It's not just a touching. It completely engulfs you. It is so convincing. But still, all spiritual experience is experience of the infinite. And it takes a multitude of directions where you are. He's saying that it is infinite, and the infinite is not only one directional, it can go into hundreds of directions. This is also a mathematical truth, that infinity is not one. There are layers and layers of infinities. Okay. That's the funny part. Okay. The mathematics teacher explains this in a very interesting way. Okay. I'll just mention it briefly so that, but you will find flaws in it, but still it is some explanation. Suppose I am a hotel keeper. Okay. And I have got a hotel of 100 rooms. Okay. and one day 10 guests come, I can accommodate them easily. And when 100 come, I can also accommodate them. But if I get 101 or 102, I can't accommodate them anymore. Now, let's imagine that I am the owner of a hotel with one infinite rooms. Okay, infinite rooms. So even if infinite guests come, I can accommodate them. Okay, but now I can do one thing. In each room, I can put two beds instead of one. So now when uh, double the number of infinite guests come, I can still accommodate them. So there is a infinity at level 1, there is an infinity at level 2, there is an infinity at level 3, and there is a level of infinite infinites. Even mathematically it is possible. Okay, so this is what Shakespeare is saying. He's saying, look at the sentence carefully. But still, all spiritual experience is experience of the infinite. And it takes multitude of directions. Some of them, and not this alone, are so close to the divine and the absolute, so penetrated with the reality of its presence, or with the ineffable peace and power of liberation from all that is less than it, that they carry with them the overwhelming sense of finality, complete and decisive. Finality comes at every level in the spiritual planes of consciousness. But you shouldn't jump to conclusions and say that's the last. Apparent finality. Okay? There are 100 ways of approaching the supreme reality. And as is the nature of the way taken, so will be the nature of the ultimate experience by which one passes into that. TCAP, T featureless, that, no description, which is ineffable, that of which no report can be given to the mind or expressed by any utterance. Okay? So, this is the also this truth was formulated by Ramakrishna in the most simple way. Joto poth, toto moth, or the other way around also. Joto moth, toto poth. As many types of theories there are so many ways to implement that theory. So this is what Sri is saying. There are 100 ways of approaching the supreme reality, and as is the nature of the way taken, so will be the nature of the ultimate experience. If I want the personal aspect of the divine, I will get it. If I want the impersonal aspect of the divine, I will get it. If I want knowledge, I will get knowledge. If I want bliss, I will get bliss. So it depends on what you want. Okay? What you is a soul. That is possible. That of which no report can be given to the mind or expressed by any utterance. Utterance, a word for words. Okay, you can't put it into words. All definitive culminations must be regarded as penultimate of the one ultimate. The ultimate is the absolute, penultimate one before that. Penultimate, the word penultimate, the word penum when you use, it means half or part. That's why we use the word penumbra. Okay? Umbra is shadow and penumbra is half shadow. Okay? So penultimate, not the ultimate, but one before that. Okay? Or the ultimate. They are steps by which the soul crosses the limits of mind into the absolute. Is then this realization of passing into a pure, immobile self-existence, or this nirvana of the individual and the universe, one among these penultimates, or is it itself the final and absolute realization, which is the end of every journey and transcends and eliminates all lesser experience? It claims to stand behind and supersede, to sublate, and to eliminate every other knowledge. It is so convincing, the experience of nirvana, that you feel that that's the last. It claims to stand behind and supersede, to sublate. The word sublate means negate, deny, contradict, remove. It removes all other theories. This is the last experience. So convincing it is. and to eliminate every other knowledge. If that is really so, then its finality must be accepted as conclusive. And that's exactly what the Buddhists do. Okay? They take that's the last, and so they disappear into the infinite. But against this pretension, it has been claimed that it is possible to travel beyond by greater negation or a greater affirmation. Now look at that. Level 2 is the nirvana experience. Now the Buddhists go to the greater negation, absolute non-existence. They go back into non-existence. Or you can go towards the supermind, which is the greater affirmation that everything is real. Everything is starting from something which is zero, but when it is coming down, it is going to one, it is going to empty, it can go here, it can go there, it can go in 100 ways. So it depends on which the soul is taking which option. Okay, note that. From level 2, the spiritual planes, you can go to absolute non-existence or you can go to absolute total existence, which when they are using the word, what is the word he is using? Greater negation and greater affirmation. Everything is positive. The whole world is real. The greater affirmation is the supermind. And the greater negation is the absolute nihil. Even your soul disappears from where it came from. No more soul. To extinguish self in non-being or to pass through the double experience of cosmic consciousness and nirvana world consciousness in the one existence to a greater divine union and unity which holds both these realities in its vast integral reality. So you can go to the positive side or you can go to the negative side. You have a choice. Okay? And that's what the soul has got, a choice. It can go into total non-existence or it can go into something which unites. Then they're using the word greater divine union and unity, which means that the spirit and matter are united. When you go to supermental, they are both real to you. Okay? They are both real, but in different degrees. It is said that beyond the duality and the non-duality, there is that in which both are held together and find their truth in a truth which is beyond them. A consummative experience, consummating something which fulfills successfully. Okay? Consummation. Don't get confused by consumption. Consumption is eating or consuming. Okay? An industry consumes raw materials. Your stomach is consuming food. Okay? So consummating is completing something successfully. Consummation and consume. Consummate. Consume is the consumption and consummate is the verb for successfully completing something. Consummate. Experience which proceeds by the exceeding and limitation of all other possible but lesser experiences as a step towards the absolute admission. That's level 3. The level 3 can be total negation or total affirmation. A supreme experience which affirms and includes the truth of all spiritual experience, gives to each its own absolute, integralizes all knowledge and experience in a supreme reality, might be the one step farther, that is at once a largest illuminating and transforming truth of all things and highest infinite transcendence. There is a transcendence, but there can be an even highest infinite transcendence. The Brahman, the supreme reality, is that which being known, all is known. So it is translating from the Upanishadic feature. Yasmin vijjate sarvam vijjatam. That which being known, everything else is known. All becomes unreal and an incomprehensible mystery. In this other experience, the reality being known all assumes its true significance, its truth to the eternal and absolute. When you are in the second level, there's a problem. The problem is that spirit and matter seem to be different. Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and force, they are all separate. Okay? They are two, not one. They exist together. The world is not unreal, but it is something else. Whereas in the supramental experience, they are essentially the same, yet taking different forms. Okay? So, big paragraph, and we have completed the paragraph now. So, we have got still about 10 minutes more. So, we can read one more paragraph. All truths. Okay? So, very clear, na? The physical world, level 1. The spiritual planes of consciousness, level 2. The level 3, you go beyond the spiritual field also. You can go to great affirmation, which is the supermind, or you can go, if you want, to something which dissolves, which is absolute featurelessness. But that absolute featurelessness is not something negative. It seems to be negative, but it is actually positive. Okay? So let's read the next one. All truths.
Shall I read?
Yes.
All truths, even though it seems to be in conflict, have their validity, but they need a reconciliation in some largest truth which takes them into itself. All philosophies have their value. If for nothing else, they because they see the self and the universe from a point of view of the spirit's experience of the many-sided manifestation, and in doing so shed light on something that has to be known in the infinite. All spiritual experiences are true, but they point towards some highest and widest reality which admits their truth and exceeds it. This is, we may say, a sign of the relativity of all truth and experience, since both vary with the outlook and the inlook of the knowing and experiencing mind, and being each man is said to have his own religion according to his own nature, but so to each man may be said to have his own philosophy, his own way of seeing and experience of existence, though only a few can formulate it. But from another point of view, this variety testifies rather to be to the infinity of aspects of the infinite. Each catches a partial glimpse or a whole glimpse of one or more aspects of context, or enters into it in his mental or his spiritual experience. To the mind, at a certain stage, all these viewpoints begin to lose their definitiveness, nay, in a large Catholicity or a complex tolerant incertitude, or all the rest may fall away from it and yield place to an ultimate truth or a single absorbing experience. It is then that is liable to feel the unreality of all that it has seen and thought and taken as a part of itself or its universe. This all becomes to its universal unreality or a many sided fragmental reality without the principle of dissociation, which passes into the negativity, purity of an absolute experience. All falls away from it, and there remains only a silent and immobile absolute. But the consciousness might be called to go farther and see again all it has left in the light of a new spiritual vision. It may recognize the truth of all things in the truth of the Absolute. It may reconcile the negation of nirvana and the affirmation of the cosmic consciousness in a single regard of that of which both are self expressions. In the passage from the mental to overmind cognition, this may many-sided manifestation in coherence of the singular and mighty harmony which reaches its greatest completeness when the soul stands on the border between overmind and supermind and looks back with a total view upon existence.
Okay. Quite a big para. and I don't think we have the time to look at it because we have only 5 minutes left. So I'll do one thing. I'll read out the summary, and we will do this in detail next time because I believe that Srinivas's language is very important, and we have to see how he uses words, because words are representative of the reality. So we should not confuse the words for the reality, they are only representing the reality. So I am reading the summary of what he had said. And if any questions are there, we can discuss that, and we'll do this next time. Okay, so all truths, what he's saying, these are my words, you won't find it in the text. Okay? But I have summarized what he's saying in the Bible. All truths, even seemingly contradictory, have got validity, but they need to be harmonized and reconciled in a larger union, a larger vision. All philosophical systems are valid because they see some one aspect of the infinite truth that needs to be understood. Similarly, all spiritual experiences are valid and true since they point to a single unifying principle. It could be said that this is a sign of the utter relativity of all experience and of all truth. Each man has a unique nature and his outlook and inlook varies individually, but it is valid for him alone. Thus, all humans have their philosophy, but very few can express or formulate it. Now, this is interesting because each one can see the reality, but do they have the development, intellectual development, mental development to be able to speak about it? Not everybody can. This is the whole thing. Okay? Whereas in Srinivas's case, his intellect was so highly developed and sharpened that is the reason why um, his life divine, particularly philosophy, is so clear. But still, it is a representation. It's not the absolute truth. You must remember that. Each man has a unique nature and his outlook and inlook varies individually, but is true only for him. Thus, all humans have their philosophy, but very few can express or formulate it. Again, we may say that this infinite varying seeing of the truth indicates the infinite nature of the reality. There are two ways of expressing this. One way is to say that everything is relative. That's one way. It sounds a little negative. Everything is relative. There is no absoluteness anywhere. But you can also say in a positive way, we may say that the infinite varying seeing of this truth, the various ways of seeing the truth, indicates that reality is infinite. So it depends on how you are looking at the infinite. At a certain stage of development of the mind, all views lose their value and end in a complex, tolerant incertitude. I'm using Srinivas's words. It's a complex, tolerant incertitude. It's not an incertitude that rejects everything. It's an incertitude which makes you wonder what is the reality. It's a tolerant incertitude. Very interesting words Srinivas is using. Or a large Catholicity, a largeness of view. You must not think of everything as opposites. You must think of them as all valid opposites. At this point, unreality of everything seems to dominate the mind consciousness, and all seems vain and without a unifying factor. This is what happens when you go to this nirvana experience. The world loses value, and there is a certain puzzlement. You are puzzled. You are a little confused. What is this? Suddenly, absolutely no value to the world, physical world at all. At this point, unreality of everything seems to dominate, and the mind consciousness and all seems vain. Vain means useless, without purpose, without aim, without any sense of direction and without any unifying factor. But then the consciousness might feel obliged to rise to a higher reconciling truth. Some souls may not feel the need, but some souls, like Sri Aurobindo, will say, wait. This confusion can't be the ultimate reality. There must be something more. So then you feel the necessity to rise to a higher reconciling final truth. At the border of the overmind and the supermind, this great unification takes place, and the simultaneous truths of nirvana and the reality of the cosmic consciousness are lived in a wonderful finality. So when you cross over from the level 2, the highest plane is the overmind, and when you go to level 3 to supermind, all the problems of this level 2 get solved. That's what Shri is. So 8:35. I told you what the summary is. We'll do this next time in detail. So okay, has to note down. By the way, before we leave, let me tell you that this Friday I may not be able to take the class in the morning because I may have to go to Jipmer. Okay, not for myself, but for my brother. So Friday I'll confirm tomorrow, but 90% I will not be able to take the class. Okay. So he has a problem now, which is prostate gland. So I'll have to get that further clarified.
Lakshmi, I think passed away.
Okay. So we'll do this again, Sunki. You note down?
Yes.
As usual.
Dada.
I don't even need to tell you. You are-
Yes, I will.
yeah. Okay.
Rangata,
Tell me.
that Lakshmi elephant passed away today morning.
Who?
Lakshmi elephant.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh
Which
wow.
goes,
I
also we
remember
hear that
too.
bell always during the class time.
Oh my God. She was such a favorite with everybody.
Ah,
Yeah. That's a pity.
She
Okay.
was so old. Was Lakshmi so old?
I don't know how old she was. Elephants
but she
usually
has heart attack.
uh, they live about 100 years, no?
No, 60
She
to 70.
I see. Okay. Like
was
those
definitely.
days. Oh, so where will they take and bury her, I wonder? And will they get another elephant?
She might.
Normally, some charitable person, they manage to give an elephant, no? Because many zoos and
Maybe not Rangada, because there was a lot of opposition about Lakshmi also.
ill treatment
Maybe
of
not.
animals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
The prevention of cruelty to animal society is very much against.
PETA has become very active now, na? So maybe not.
Yeah.
And Rangata, it is so difficult. We can't even see this type of cruelty. You tie down an animal and keep either in your home as a pet just because you like him and you keep them. This is not a, this is also a part of cruelty only, no? You rescue somebody and keep it, that is a different thing. But when you tie down and keep it in your home, then
Yeah.
apart from the natural habitat, it is really a torturing one, which we don't even realize that we are torturing somebody.
Quite right. It's quite right. What right do you have to restrict an animal to your wants and needs?
Ah,
It's not rational. Anyway, okay. So,
Thank you, Rangada.
Jai Sri Krishna.
good night.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Rangada.